The Sympathizer by Viet Thanh Nguyen. And I'm pretty sure I pronounced that right. So, yeah. I thought it was a good novel. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was very elliptical. It was very experimental. It had its it was very complex. It meshes together uh, the comments or the dialogue with the actual narration, with the actual description in the text of the actions that are taking place, of the thoughts that are being thought out by the characters. So that's one of the main things that I noticed. This novel deals a lot with the absurd. If you can see by the epigraph that is placed in this book, but with the epigraph referencing Nietzsche, and it talks about how even torture is something, not that serious, or it can be dealt with. So, this novel deals a lot with the absurd. Characters in the story are, like, for example, it criticizes Hollywood movies, and the depiction that these movies had this sort of propagandistic intention in spreading the American gospel, or what is the American gospel. This just creeped out of the bookmark. The American gospel of colonizing the Vietnamese South Side and taking over the North, and this very simplistic depiction of us versus them, and then kind of others, the North Side, and a lot of Americans. And then one of the things that this novel did brilliantly was not center the narrative focus of the novel was never on the Americans, and I thought that was a really good thing to do, because if you focus a lot on the Americans, it becomes about America, and America has a very horrible track record when it comes to this foreign policy, and it doesn't make America look well. So if he would have made it so that the narrative was focused on the Americans, that would have made it seem like the center of the story is not the Vietnamese people themselves, which is what it really should be about, and that's really is ultimately what happened. It should be the narrative focus of the novel should be on Vietnamese people. A sympathizer is a person that spies on the opposing side of a war, and they retell this information, or the knowledge that they acquire from infiltrating the other sides. They kind of share it with their side. So he's from the North originally, and this novel is a confession, and the confession is a a primordial aspect to this novel, because he is confessing the whole time, almost the whole time, not the whole time. I would argue that out of the 380 pages that spans this book, maybe 20 pages were not confession. And even because this novel is so elliptical, it makes it seem like even the parts that were not confession, because the way that he recontinues the confession after, because something happens in the novel, I'm not gonna say what. It becomes a point where he has to he is telling the North, because they have been captured by the northern side, him and his friends being they, and the sympathizer. I can't remember the main character's name anymore. I don't know what happened to me. What's going on? Um, um, yeah, I can't believe I can't remember anymore. Wow, it hasn't even been that long. Wow. Anyways, I'll keep going. Uh, So yeah, he kind of he's been captured and he has to defend himself, and at the same time he has to inadvertently or indirectly defend his friends from getting killed because they are the friends from his childhood. And the novel starts off with him saying that he's Two-Face, or that he can see both sides really well, and that's his special gift in life, because everybody has their gift. And what is his gift? That he can see more than one side to the story. He can see two sides to the story. And at the end, it becomes very elliptical because you start to see how him being two-sided kind of really, does it deteriorate his humanity, or does it augment his humanity? You have to decide for yourself. And you have to see all the things that are going on, and like, it's not a one-sided story of the Vietnam War. And I love those types of stories, and that's why I love this novel. This novel does have its violent moments. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think that everybody should read this book, simply because it has its violent moments. I mean, it's not like the worst thing. I've heard American Psycho's pretty bad, and this novel, like, has its moments where I would say that not everybody should read it. I don't think high school students should read this book because they're too young for this material. Although they probably still will, because English teachers don't give a fuck about their students and they make them read whatever the fuck they want. But anyways, without thinking about the repercussions that the novels that they read have on their lives. So, enough of that rant. Yeah, this novel at the end becomes very, very elliptical because everything's going on and everything's turning on around in his head, and it's just like meshing and just turning and turning and turning, and it's kind of like those machines that they use to un licuador, which is they put the fruits in there and then it just like spins it and then it just makes it into the liquid. It turns the fruit, a solid, into a liquid. I don't know what they're called in English. Un licuador. And it's just like his two sides. He's just like, it becomes too sophisticated, way too sophisticated, and I appreciate that. And it made me think about my own humanity. And I think a good novel does that. It makes you reflect on your own life, and it makes you think about, your own humanity. Like, good novels, the best novels, can transcend their subject and make it turn into it turns everybody's subject. It turns their subject into everybody's subject. Everybody becomes a part of the story. Everybody's involved. Everybody that reads it becomes a part. Everybody that reads it becomes Vietnamese, becomes Southern Vietnamese, becomes Northern Vietnamese, becomes American, although very little American, because again, the American side isn't the central part of the story. And I think a lot of Vietnam War veterans might not like it because of that. I'm not saying they're just simplistic readers, but they like to see themselves reflected, especially when it's such a traumatic experience that war is. You want to see yourself reflected, and you want to ultimately believe that what you did was good. And this novel might not do that for you because war is absurd, and that's what one of the novels, and it doesn't really center around the war. It does have its moment where it centers around the war, but it largely deals with the aftermath of the war, and they're trying to, the South is trying to gain momentum again, and they want to reconquer the land, and you get to see the whole thing happen before your eyes, as told through this commander, or whatever position he has. Honestly, after a while, you just see the positions and the commissar, the commandant, you see all these positions and they become arbitrary. Honestly, it's like just an arbitrary denomination for who you are as a person. And I can't remember what position he has in the army that this main character has, but honestly, it didn't really matter because all you need to know is that he's not the average guy, but he's not like a general. But he speaks to the general. The general wants to take over the north again. He wants to take away the communism, because a lot of this novel. Another thing that this novel did well was communism, was introducing communism. If the novel would have, the whole time, if it would have shown only the South and like this attempt to take over the North, it would have made the North look really good because we never really would have known who they were, because although it was a very, very sophisticated, outlook on the South, it still would have kept, you would have begged the question, what about the North? What about the North? What about the North? And honestly, I'm very glad that he brought up the North, and it was very important that he did, because it showed us the other. When literature there is the sense of the other, and especially for Americans that are covering the Vietnam War, the other is very important. Learning about the other. And I thought, because he covered the other, because he showed us what communists thought, he introduced communist characters, and it wasn't just them over there, those people over there. It wasn't like that. It was not like that. It showed us, it told us, this is the characters. I'm not going to reveal how. It was amazing. It was amazing. I'm going to tell you that much. It was amazing. What you discover, the plot twist was like, holy shit. It was amazing. But, yeah, I thought that there were some moments where, it says here, savagely funny. So the novel does have its funny moments, because when you look at it through the lens of the absurd, when you're like, okay, this is absurd, but they're still carrying on with this, then you're like, this shit is hilarious, because like, how can they even consider this as sane? Kind of like Catch-22 sort of thing. So that's why it has a comparison to Catch-22, pulses with Catch-22 style absurdities. Because Catch-22 is not only about the absurd, but it's also a war novel. So how convenient is it that what is absurd is war? So there's an essay at the end that says that the military industrial complex feeds off of the idea. It's the last sentence. I can actually tell you that. For rather than being disturbed by the idea that war is held, this complex thrives on it. So, the idea, it talks a lot about war, but no war actually happens in the novel. Like there's a depiction of war, which is the movie that comes out in the movie. In the book, there's an actual. He's a consultant for this very large Hollywood or whomever. This group is making a movie in the book, and he's a consultant. He's trying to show them to make it more realistic, because they're lopsidedly propagandistic towards the north, towards the south, and trying to show more balanced, equilibrium. In trying to show more balanced, more accurate depiction, they hire him, and it paints the absurd, and it shows you the absurd, and there's no actual war except for this movie that is shown in the book, and everybody's trying to get back into war, and that's shown and that's what's absurd about it. But at the same time, you're like, there's a point that there comes a point where you must be willing to die for your country, and even if it's an absurd means of obtaining it, you still have to consider it. So even though it's absurd that war is absurd, you must be willing to go through the absurd to rescue your country and protect it, because then communists will take over. Excuse me. I'm gonna end it here. I probably could have said a little more, but this novel was really good. It was very good. Thanks for watching.